Hello everyone, welcome to a news edition in English Now Headlines. In Gabon since this morning, Monday, June 26th at 10 a.m., the President of the Republic, Ali Bongo Ondimba, has been holding a cabinet meeting in the usual room of the Palais de Baudemer. At the continental level, after Sierra Leone recently held its general elections, it continues counting the votes. Once more, welcome to this news edition in English with me live from Libreville in Gabon. To begin with, in Gabon, as I said earlier, on Sunday, June 25th, the Gabonese Election Center held a plenary meeting. The first body to meet before any election in the country. The meeting held on Sunday concerned the organization of this year's general elections to be held on August 26th. At the end of the meeting, which lasted more than 10 hours, a calendar of activities was set for the general elections. Let's listen to Michel Stéphane Bonda, who is president of the Gabonese Election Center.
Mardi 11 juillet 2023.
Tuesday, July 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Deadline for filing candidacy registration for the election of the President of the Republic, for the election of members of Parliament, and for the election of members of departmental and municipal council for the year 2023. Friday, August 11th, 2023 at midnight. Opening of the electoral campaign for the single round of the election of the President of the Republic for the year 2023. Once a day, August 16th, 2023 at midnight. Opening of the electoral campaign for the single round of elections for members of Parliament and members of departmental and municipal councils. Friday, August 25th, 2023 at midnight. Closure of the electoral campaign for all general elections. Last but not the least, Saturday, 26th August 2023 from 7 o'clock a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. the Electoral College is convened for all the general elections. That is to say, it is the polls day for the 2023 elections.
Pour l'année 2023.
Line since this morning at 10 a.m. As I said earlier, the President of the Republic of Gabon, Ali Bongo Ondimba, has been holding a cabinet meeting in the usual room of the Palais de Baudemer. All the members of the government present on the national territory have been attending it. This cabinet meeting might focus on ratifying the electoral calendar for the forthcoming general elections to be held on August 26th, proposed by the Gabonese Election Center at the end of its plenary session held on Sunday, June 25th. Yet, while attending it this morning, the Minister of Culture evokes the forthcoming event in his ministerial department. Let's listen to him right now.
We have passed a test that has been awaited for some 40 years, the status of artist. There are still other projects to be undertaken, in particular the copyright project, the Bugada, the reform, and also everything to do with private copying. This is what will enable artists to become autonomous. But for the moment, we are focusing on the music festival. There have been 2 master classes, the first of which was led by the Director of Performing Arts, Mr. Frank Debord, and I myself will be leading a master class on all the technical aspects of advanced sound, and the highlight will be the show.
Le clou, c'est le spectacle.
At the continental level, Sierra Leone recently held the general elections also. This West African country continues the counting after last Saturday's presidential, legislative and local elections. An update from John Cyril Ndomengue and Sabrina Kondipenda.
In Sierra Leone, some 3.3 million voters cast their ballots on Saturday for 13 political parties, including the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party, SLPP. Opposing them was the main opposition party, the All People's Congress, APC. For the presidential elections, President Julius Maada Bio, who is seeking a second and final term, faces the main opposition candidate Samura Kamara, whom he had already beaten in 2018 elections.
We came here around 5. Even the main gate was not open. It was not open. So that's the part of ECSL to create more tension to the people. And even when we entered, right, there was no area for us to get our settlements in the voting room. There was no access, except you have to go with others, especially me. I directed others where they should do the voting. Some are rejected, their names did not appear. You see? And that's a complete embarrassment on the side of the SCA.
As soon as elections are over on Saturday, then we start the collection process of our results. And once they are collected, then they start going to the regional tally center in batches. And so we collect, move to the regional tally center, and then the collation starts.
This presidential election is the 5th to be held in Sierra Leone since the end of the civil war that lasted from 1991 to 2002, a conflict that ruined the country with tens of thousands of victims. For the presidential election, a total of 55% of the vote cast may be obtained, failing which a second round will be held between the two candidates. Result expected to be published in a week's time.
In economy, Namibian politicians voiced concern on dollar hegemony, calling on African countries to be less dependent on the US dollar. Maria Batista Mina for the story.
The U.S. Federal Reserve lifted interest rate for 10 consecutive times since March 2022, resulting in the devaluation of currencies and inflation in African countries. In April, the International Monetary Fund released in its Regional Economic Outlook report for Sub-Saharan Africa, highlighting that inflation, including soaring commodity prices, is over 10% in half of African countries and hit the poor hardest. To tackle the inflation, the central banks in African countries have to raise interest rates. The South African Reserve Bank, the country's central bank, announced in late May to increase the repurchase rate by 50 basis points to 8.25%, a third interest hike this year. In mid-June, Namibia's central bank followed suit and raised the interest rate by 0.5% point from 7.25% to an annual rate of 7.77%. We have always been in trouble when we give prominence to only one currency. Then the whole world will depend on that currency. When a problem comes, that currency will regulate the world here. When South Africa suffers from inflation, we too, we follow, said Franz Cookie-like, member of the SWAPO Party of Namibia. The Zimbabwe Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe also decided to raise its policy interest rate from 140% to 150% per annum in June, as the country's month-to-month inflation soaring to 15.7% in May, gaining 13.3% point on April rate of 2.4%.
In Niger, a former French colony, the National Assembly adopted a new national anthem on Thursday to replace La Nigérienne, written by a Frenchman the day after the country gained independence in 1961. Tibotungo Tabaga, the Olinzoti for the details.
Drug use is a global problem affecting millions of people around the world. According to the World Drug Report 2019, 35 million people suffer from drug-related disorders. The International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking was therefore instituted to remind governments of the need to step up measures to raise awareness and combat drug abuse, as well as to alert consumers to the dangers of these products for the body. In our societies, people addicted to drugs are often victims of stigmatization, social injustice, and discrimination. Hence, this year's theme, People First, let's put an end to stigmatization and discrimination. Let's step up prevention. The aim of this year's campaign is to raise awareness of the importance of treating drug users with respect and empathy, providing evidence-based voluntary services for all, offering alternatives to repression, prioritizing prevention and showing compassion. In addition, the UN Assembly encourages leaders to put in place measures to combat illicit drug trafficking.
Well, this was some information about drug abuse. Well, to end this newscast, the 4-day visit of a Chinese naval fleet to Côte d'Ivoire on Thursday was warmly welcomed by locals and overseas Chinese who took it as a symbol of growing bilateral relations. The fleet, comprising guided missiles, destroy Nenin, guided missile frigate Sanya, and comprehensive supply ship Wei Shenhu arrived in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire for a friendly visit. 40 years of diplomatic relations have paved the way for partnerships in infrastructure and energy between the two countries, and now the two nations are looking military cooperation.
The political mutual trust between China and Côte d'Ivoire continues to grow, and cooperation in various fields is expected to be fruitful. I believe this visit will not only mark a glorious chapter in the two armies' relations, but also inject new momentum into the development of bilateral ties. The Global Security Initiative announced by Chinese President Xi Jinping calls for a common, integrated, cooperative and sustainable security vision.
We are here to welcome our naval fleet. I'm very happy and proud to be Chinese. I congratulate my country, and the visit of this fleet proves that the friendship between China and Côte d'Ivoire is very advanced.
These warships are very impressive. It's the first time I've seen a ship like this. It is a real pleasure for me to be able to visit them. I hope that the visit of the Chinese sailors will bring a lot to our country. I sincerely hope that my country can have military cooperation with China.
And that's all for now. We have a recap of the headlines. In this newscast, we said that in Gabon, since this morning, Monday, June 26th at 10 a.m., the President of the Republic, Ali Bongo Ondimba, has been holding a cabinet meeting in the usual room of the Palais du Parlement. At the continental level, after Sierra Leone recently held its general elections on Saturday, it continues counting the votes. And dear viewers, note that the Gabonese general elections are going to be held on August 26th, Tuesday, July 11th, 2023 at 6 o'clock p.m. is the deadline for filing candidacy registration for any of the elections for the year 2023. As for me, I say goodbye for now.